22nd, 2011. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon in Joplin, Missouri. Families were heading home after church. Kids were playing outside. Stores and restaurants were busy. For most people, it felt like an ordinary day. But in less than 40 minutes, one of the most powerful tornadoes in American history would tear through the heart of the city. What followed became one of the deadliest tornado disasters of the 21st century. This is the true story of the Joplin Tornado. On the morning of May 22nd, weather forecasters warned that conditions were favorable for severe thunderstorms across parts of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Most residents had heard the forecast before. Spring storms were common in the Midwest. Few expected anything beyond heavy rain and hail. But the atmosphere that day was unusually unstable. Warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico collided with cooler, drier air moving in from the west, creating the perfect conditions for violent tornadoes. Meteorologists knew the threat was real. They just didn't know where the strongest tornado would strike. At approximately 5:41 p.m., a tornado touched down on the western edge of Joplin. At first, it appeared relatively small, but within minutes, it exploded into an EF5 tornado, the highest rating on the enhanced Fujita scale. The tornado grew nearly 1 mile wide. Its winds exceeded 200 miles per hour, strong enough to rip homes from their foundations, overturn vehicles, and strip trees completely bare. It wasn't just a tornado anymore. It had become a force of nature unlike anything most residents had ever experienced. As the tornado tore through Joplin, entire neighborhoods disappeared. Homes were ripped apart in seconds. Apartment buildings collapsed. Schools were heavily damaged. Businesses that had stood for decades were reduced to piles of debris. Cars were tossed through the air like toys. Windows shattered. Power lines snapped. Streetlights crashed onto the roads. One of the city's major hospitals suffered catastrophic damage, forcing patients and medical staff to evacuate during the disaster. Within minutes, much of the city had been transformed into a landscape of destruction. Thousands of people took shelter wherever they could. Some hid in basements. Others squeezed into closets or bathrooms, hoping the walls would protect them. Many survived only because they reached shelter seconds before the tornado arrived. Outside, visibility dropped to almost nothing. The roar of the tornado sounded like dozens of freight trains racing through the city. Flying debris turned everyday objects into deadly projectiles. For many families, those terrifying moments felt like they would never end. When the tornado finally moved away, the devastation was almost impossible to comprehend. Entire neighborhoods had been flattened. Roads were blocked by fallen trees, overturned vehicles, and massive piles of debris. First responders from across Missouri rushed into Joplin. Firefighters, police officers, paramedics, National Guard troops, and volunteers searched tirelessly for survivors trapped beneath collapsed homes and buildings. Search and rescue teams worked around the clock. Emergency crews established temporary medical centers because one of the city's main hospitals had been severely damaged. Every minute mattered. Every voice heard beneath the rubble gave rescuers renewed hope. By the time rescue operations ended, the scale of the disaster had become clear. The Joplin tornado claimed 158 lives. More than 1,000 people were injured. Over 7,000 homes were damaged or destroyed. The storm caused approximately $2.8 billion in damage, making it one of the costliest tornadoes in U.S. history. The emotional impact lasted far longer than the storm itself. Many families lost loved ones. Others lost everything they owned.
5% chance of new tornado outbreaks on Tuesday over a 5-state area.
The Tri-State Tornado, March 18th, 1925. It started like any other spring day across the American Midwest. Families were working on their farms. Children were sitting in classrooms. Factory workers were beginning another ordinary day. No one knew that within a matter of hours, the deadliest tornado in U.S. history would leave a trail of destruction unlike anything the country had ever seen. The morning of March 18th felt completely normal across parts of Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. Back then, weather forecasting was still in its early stages. Meteorologists had limited technology. There were no weather satellites, no Doppler radar, no emergency alerts on cell phones. For most people, the storm arrived with a little or no warning. Life continued as usual while dark clouds slowly gathered on the horizon. Around 1 p.m., a powerful tornado touched down in southeastern Missouri. At first, few people realized just how dangerous it would become. Instead of lifting after a few miles like most tornadoes, this one kept going, minute after minute, mile after mile. The tornado grew into a massive rotating wall of destruction, with estimated winds exceeding 300 miles per hour. It tore through the countryside at speeds approaching 70 miles per hour, giving people almost no time to escape. It wasn't just another tornado. It was becoming one of the most extraordinary storms ever recorded. As the tornado crossed into Illinois, entire communities found themselves directly in its path. Farmhouses disappeared in seconds. Schools collapsed. Factories were heavily damaged. Churches, businesses, and railroad tracks were torn apart. Trees were stripped bare. Telephone and telegraph lines snapped, cutting off communication between towns. The storm continued moving relentlessly toward Indiana, leaving devastation behind wherever it went. By the time it finally dissipated, the tornado had traveled approximately 219 miles, making it one of the longest continuous tornado tracks ever documented. When the storm finally ended, the scale of the disaster shocked the nation. 695 people lost their lives. More than 2,000 others were injured. Thousands of homes, farms, and businesses had been destroyed or severely damaged. Entire communities faced the difficult task of rebuilding from the ground up. For many families, life would never be the same. May 31st, 2013. Near El Reno, Oklahoma, a powerful supercell thunderstorm began producing a tornado. At first, it appeared to be just another large tornado on the open plains, but within minutes, it grew into something extraordinary. The tornado expanded to an astonishing 2.6 miles, 4.2 kilometers wide, making it the widest tornado ever officially recorded. Even more alarming, its movement became increasingly unpredictable. Instead of following a steady path, the tornado shifted direction multiple times, making it incredibly difficult for meteorologists and storm chasers to anticipate where it would go next. What looked manageable one moment became a rapidly changing and dangerous situation the next. As the tornado continued to grow, it made an unexpected turn. Several experienced storm chasers, who had spent years studying severe weather, suddenly found themselves much closer to the storm than they had planned. Despite their advanced forecasting tools, weather radar, and years of experience, the tornado behaved in ways few had ever witnessed. Its enormous size, rapidly changing path, and complex internal circulation made it extremely difficult to predict. Within moments, what had been a carefully planned observation became a race against an unpredictable force of nature. The event served as a powerful reminder that even the most experienced professionals can face situations beyond anyone's control. After the storm passed, emergency crews began searching damaged roads, open fields, and affected communities. At the same time, meteorologists and researchers started examining weather radar and satellite data to better understand what had happened. Their analysis revealed that the tornado contained multiple rotating subvortices, smaller tornado-like circulations spinning within the larger tornado. These rapidly changing vortices contributed to the tornado's unusual behavior and made its movement far more difficult to predict than a typical tornado. The findings provided valuable insight into one of the most complex tornadoes ever studied. The Reno Tornado changed the way meteorologists study severe storms. It also influenced how storm chasers evaluate risk when tracking rapidly evolving tornadoes. Researchers continue to study the storm today, using the data collected in 2013 to improve forecasting techniques and public safety. Although weather science has advanced significantly, the Reno Tornado remains one of the clearest reminders that nature can still surprise even the world's leading experts.
Yeah, it is.
If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more real-life documentaries about most extraordinary events. Your support helps this channel continue bringing these stories to life. If you have any suggestions or feedback on how I can make future videos even better, leave a comment below. I read everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next documentary.